Today in the studio, we have the REVI system from Environmental Lights, the technology leader in true low-voltage systems. See how the REVI system improves reliability, flexibility, and value to overcome the most common points of failure. Join us for a closer look. Hi, I'm Richard Heaton, lighting designer at Paragon 360, and today we have Greg Higgins with us from Environmental Lights. Thanks for joining us, Greg.
Thank you so much for having me, Richard. I'm super excited about talking about environmental lights and our really cool technologies coming to market and cool technologies in general.
Yeah, so REVI, R-E-V-I, what does that stand for, Greg?
Good question, and it stands for Remote Voltage Illumination. Now, traditionally with LED bulbs, it sounds funny saying traditional LED bulbs, the bulbs have a power supply built into the back of them, which is a heat source, and essentially what everybody found when they bought their LED bulb hoping to last a lifetime is that after a couple of years they would fail. And that doesn't work out so well if you've got a cathedral. So what we did in Environmental Lights is we removed that power supply from the back of those bulbs, and we put those into a centrally located spot, hence the remote voltage illumination. So now we essentially went from, say, having 120 failure points in the ceiling to a single serviceable power supply at waist level.
Right. So instead of having to get out a lift or scaffolding or whatever, remove pews to get to the ceiling in your sanctuary, now we can access the house lights in a closet.
Yeah, exactly. And the nice thing is it's never the LEDs that fail. It's really the power supply from being in a very hot location. So these closets are climate controlled as well. So not only are the power supplies not in a sauna, but they're in a pretty nice environment for themselves. Adding to this is the REVI power supply and gives us super control over our lights. So we can create tunable white situations, we can dim down to 0.1%. We can do so much more by remotely locating that power supply to a central spot.
So another advantage of putting the power supply in a remote location, how does that change the wiring requirements for the system?
So what's really cool about this is that now rather than having 120 volts AC running throughout the building, where you require a wire that's capable of handling 1800 watts, we're putting all the high voltage stuff in a closet. And so what that does for us is we're able to shift from running 14.2 or Romex throughout a building to running low voltage cable that's all class 2. So not only are we using a lot less copper, but it's much safer of an installation for the REVI system.
So the REVI system, there's a handful of pieces and parts, the major components. Walk us through what those are.
Sure, so the REVI system consists of 3 major components, and that's the power supply, maybe my favorite, the lights, and then control.
Gotcha, and so the power supply, just kind of point these features out to us first.
Our power supplies are completely configurable, and they essentially give the user the ability to set every single channel to a specific drive current. So you can use one single power supply for whatever fixtures you're operating through an installation, rather than ordering custom power supplies every time you need a unique fixture.
Right, so if I've got an installation where I need these fixtures in this area to be a certain brightness, I can adjust that channel's output. Mm-hmm. And then over in this other area that needs to be brighter, I can just go to the REVI power supply, adjust those channels to output a stronger voltage.
Without a doubt. And it's really cool. You can set up, of course, those DMX start addresses. You can set up intermediate DMX start addresses. And then on top of that, you can name the power supplies whatever you want to name them, which is helpful for large installations so you know what you're servicing.
One of my favorite features is that it's rack mountable. And in some systems, you struggle to find places for the power supplies, but with the REVI system, the rack mount allows us to put them all in one spot that's easily located and is very clean of an install.
Yeah, and I love the fact they're rack mountable too. And then also we put a service port on the front of the power supplies, and then a hard on-off toggle so you can cut power to the power supply. Then we also have hardwire ports. Hardwires are really cool for, let's say you're running that really long run of RS-45 data cable across a very large installation. You can hardwire directly in there and not have to worry about soldering to the 5-pin XLR or the 3-pin XLR.
Right, and just a few moments ago you mentioned the lights. There are a ton of different options in the lights. What are some of the options that we can find with the lights?
We wanted to come to market with one product and that product to be used in 80% of the situations. So what we did is for our commercial lights, our commercial downlights, we made them configurable. So you can choose the color temperature. Whether it's single color, you can go do tunable white, you can do RGBW, so you can select that. On top of that, you can select the beam angle that you're coming out of. And then if you have a custom project, we can also shift the color of the actual fixture itself.
Gotcha. Well, I can tell you it's very usable.
Thank you very much, very much.
And the control system. So the third component, you've got your REVI power supply, you've got your lighting fixtures, but then there's always the control.
Yeah, so control is always a doozy. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to make it control agnostic. And so what we set up our REVI power supplies to do is to operate on a lighting standard DMX, meaning that any light board that churches use or any light board that you'll use at a venue, it's always going to be able to output DMX.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned DMX because that is my entire world. Whether I'm working in a studio or a stadium, an auditorium or a sanctuary, I'm choosing these tools to create an immersive environment, and it's all based on DMX.
Absolutely, and that's one of the cool things about environmental lights is that we're not only providing now with the REVI system the general lighting that's extremely controllable through DMX, but we also and have always offered the linear lighting systems, and they are really adding value to these installations because you can create such a sense of immersion in your house of worship or your sanctuaries all through the magic of DMX that you and I both love to live in. The core of what environmental lights has always been engineering and customer support and troubleshooting and all of the back-end stuff that people don't necessarily see when the finished product is done, really do exactly what Paragon 360 does such a good job at, and that's creating environments, and we love to help doing that.
Right. Well, thanks for joining us today. It's been great to learn about REVI system.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me today. It's great talking to you, and thank you so much for taking me around the Paragon 360 campus. Without a doubt, you guys are totally changing environments and doing it right, and I'm extremely thrilled to be helping you guys create these really cool immersive environments for your customers.
Thank you. For more information on environmental lights, you can find them at environmentallights.com. And to see if the REVI system is right for your next project, email us at info@paragon360.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.